A lot of businesses start as side hustles, and I think that's so awesome. And today we're going to talk about knowing when you take the leap from side hustle to jumping in and just going to town in the deep end. Kayla, Malss, hello, welcome back to Pod Vegas.
So nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so look, we've put some points down just to kind of encourage people. Any overarching thoughts before we get into it?
Probably to start off, maybe that you don't even have to take your side hustle full time if you don't want to. I didn't. I had a goal in mind with my side hustle, achieved that goal and shut it down. And then lo and behold, I ended up owning a business later on anyway. So I just thought it's probably worth putting that out there as an option.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a side hustle?
Yeah. You're sitting in the podcast.
Yeah, okay.
So
fair.
so my podcast was the side hustle when I had the financial advice business.
Gotcha.
So look, I think you're right, and I think there's another part of this as well that there are some businesses that can't be a side hustle. You've just got to go all in. Mm-hmm. When I was in financial advice, I was licensed with a license. I couldn't do my own.
Licensed with a license to be licensed.
I was licensed to be licensed, all that stuff. I couldn't have my own financial advice business on the side because you had to have your own license and you couldn't run two.
Okay.
So there are situations where you can't have two things going on. So there has to be some strategy or a bit more planning around that. But I think it's a good discussion to start to think about, what do you want to achieve? What are your own timelines? It's probably wise to say if you do want to start a side hustle, and we won't get into the reasons why or why not to do a side hustle.
If you're listening, you're probably there. You probably have a side hustle.
Or even if you're thinking about doing something, like how long are you going to do this until, either it's going great or it's a hobby, but we'll assume that you've got a side hustle that's humming along, you're working full time, doing this literally as the instructions on the box says on the side, and we're going to talk about 5 or 6 things, or 5 or 6 points, or when it is time to jump straight into your side hustle and make it your full-time thing. My name is Glen James, joined by
Kayla Malss.
What do you do, Kayla?
I own a full-service marketing agency called Allies Management. So we make businesses look good online.
Well, there you go, everyone. Let's do a podcast right now. All right, Kayla, what have we got as our first point?
So I think it's time to quit your job and go full-time in your side hustle if you're making equal or more in your side hustle than you are in your full-time gig. We always say that there's no point in owning a business if you're not earning enough to warrant the risk of owning a business. So if you're at the stage where you're at a bit of a crossroads, you're earning around the same, if not more, that's when it's time to start thinking of jumping ship.
And would you say, based on that, so if someone earned 80 grand a year in their day job,
Yep.
Is it necessarily, well, I'm doing my side hustle earning 80 grand, or would you maybe pro rata it and just see per unit of time?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think if you know where your customers are coming from and you can see that in the next 6 months, 6 months, 80 grand, 40 grand, you can make that money, then it's probably start. And
to be honest, like if you do have a side hustle and it's earning the same as your full-time gig,
you probably have 40 hours in a day anyway.
Yeah, but it's just this time. What are you doing here? Unless you literally are hustling to go towards a financial goal. Like, all right, we're just going to smash out, work heaps hard, hit that home deposit, hit that travel to Europe, hit that debt, hit that insert goal here. Then we'll make the decision, well, okay, I'll quit my job and do my own thing.
And think that however many hours is in your contract of your full-time role, whether it's 35, 38, 40, if you were to dedicate that time into your business, what's that output going to look like? And if it's looking a little bit more attractive than what you're currently getting each week, then might be time.
Yeah. So I think that's the big one. You've just got to step back and look at the hard numbers. And and some of these other things, you might not be making the hard numbers because you don't have the time commitment, and if you have more time, you could. So that's another thing to look at. Look, the second point is your side hustle has taken off so much that there is too much work coming in.
Yep.
So you've got all this inflow and you're stressing out. It's like, where am I going to get the time to do this?
Yeah. Or you're like Sunday night, you're realizing that you have to go to work on Monday and that's going to negatively impact your business by actually going to your day job.
And if you've got this good problem, it might not necessarily be a side hustle. You might actually have a little side business because I think that's the different thing. Like people go, I've got a side hustle where I make candles for markets. But if you've got that much inflow that it's taking so much of your time, no, you've got a side business. And I think that's really important to
100%.
to identify.
And I guess it goes back to why you're doing it in the first place. Do you want to take it full time? Do you just want to earn a bit of extra cash on your weekends? In which case, why have you built a side business and not a side hustle?
But there's another layer here, which I think, depending on your industry, so Iris Jade, she founded the Quick Flick. Okay, and I've interviewed her on the main show before.
That's the hair.
No, it's the wings for the makeup, the mascara wings.
Okay.
Is it mascara? Have you seen them? Have a look. And so what it was, so when wings were popular, she made this makeup accessory where you would stamp on the wing.
Oh, yep, I see.
And it was just awesome. So
was it awesome?
Apparently.
Yeah.
Now, this is interesting, and this was one of the questions I asked her. So she could tick the box of I'm too busy, too much inflow because all these people want these stamped wings and all that, but she's operating in an environment where in 3 years' time, that's out of fashion. So we want to really be clear with the business and the product and the demand.
Yeah.
And that's what I said to her, like, and that's where she had to go, well, I had to then move and do other stuff because she couldn't put the whole farm on wings.
Yeah.
Because wings might not be popular or fashionable in 2 years.
So you're saying that she took it from a side hustle to a business with knowing that she would have to come out with extra products. And that was her focus going into full time.
Yeah.
Was that? Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think it was the wings took off. She jumped in, turned the money down from Shark Tank, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But she knew that, okay, there's a life cycle here of this wing business. I mean, sure, they probably still sell, but it's probably not peak 2013 or something, whenever that was. So I think that's another thing.
Yeah, good point.
Number 3, what do we got?
If an opportunity has come up and you can take the risk, so that could be if you sell products, that could be a big wholesaler has put in a huge order, or you did maybe an influencer campaign and suddenly a heap of orders have come through. If an opportunity comes up, it might be time to jump ship.
Yeah, but that's the whole the risk thing, right? So, I could be, and Iris is such a good example. You could be doing the wing things and an opportunity popped up and someone wanted to buy a whole heap of things. It's like, okay, well, there's a line in the sand here. I could turn that opportunity down and keep my job or go, you know what, stuff this. I believe in what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. Let's go to town and jump.
And I guess
take that risk.
It goes back again to knowing where your customers are coming from. If you have this, you're getting 1 or 2 orders a day and this massive order comes through, cool. You have this order that buys you, let's say, a month's time, but then you go back to having 1 or 2 orders a day. That's a little bit risky, in my opinion.
And that's where I think with your side hustle, I really think it's so important before you put the farm on it and, go all in.
Put the farm on it.
Bet the farm. She was in that world.
Yeah.
So she knew that world. Now, if Glen James woke up tomorrow morning and like, I've got this makeup mascara idea or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it kind of grew legs and popped a bit. I don't know if I'd want to be putting the farm on that idea and quitting my job and all that because I'm not in that industry or in that world.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to, and this is kind of for those that want to do a side hustle or something on their own, in a different industry or something like that, go and get a job in that world. Like, don't be you're in marketing. Don't be a marketer thinking, I want to do a side hustle distributing T-shirt. Oh, probably market is good. I'm just thinking.
Don't be a baker and get into mascara.
Yeah,
mascara
or something like
industry.
that. Like, you want to know the industry.
Yeah.
Because all these things give you the confidence that you're on the ground in that industry.
Yeah.
Whether you want to start a mascara brand, go and work for somebody who does, and just get involved in the industry.
Or even in your side hustle, use that time in your side hustle to immerse yourself in the industry rather than jumping ship too early and taking it full time and taking on all that risk.
Yeah, because we know one thing about risk. You know, what do you reckon? Well, let's maybe list these out. Actually, we'll talk about the next point because it does talk about risk, and we'll do so right after this.
If you're after personal financial advice, don't get it from a podcast. But if you want guidance tailored to your situation, head to moneypodcast.com.au and click Get Help. We'll connect you with one of our trusted professionals, financial advisors and mortgage brokers, who work with people right across Australia. No matter where you are, they can help. Now, before we get back to the show, a quick reminder to protect your financial life. That means having income protection sorted. It means having death cover if there's any debt or dependents relying on you. It means getting your personal insurance in order. Most people insure their car, they insure their house, but what about themselves? Sky Wealth, who support this podcast, are specialist financial advisors who can help you get the right cover in place. Their advice is often more comprehensive and better value than going direct through your super. Book a complimentary 15-minute chat at sky.com.au. That's skye.com.au. And they'll point you in the right direction.
So when it comes to risk, the fourth point is you have to take the risk, or there's an opportunity to take the risk if there is a change in your employment situation. So it could be, I've just been made redundant. Ugh, how annoying. Well, I've been doing this side hustle for a year. There's signs of life. I'm now going to jump in and take that risk.
And I know a lot of business owners who that's how they've taken their side hustle full time was because they had to.
Yeah, and a friend of mine, he got made redundant, and it sucks at the time because obviously it does.
Yeah.
He's like, it's the best thing that happened to me because it made me take that risk and do my own thing.
Yeah.
But before, I was talking about risk mitigation, let's maybe think about what are some of the big things that we can do to reduce risk before we go full into our side hustle. Now, I know you're a bit of a planner and you don't love getting put on the spot.
Yeah, I do love.
But I'm going to list. So the first thing we can do is knowing the industry.
Yep.
So, because to minimize risk, a lot of it is understanding. People get scared, I don't want to invest in the stock market because it's like gambling. So that triggers this risky scared. But if you educate yourself, well, no, I don't think buying shares in Woolworths or CBA is considered gambling. Oh, well, that risk minimizes, right?
Yeah. And it really depends on your perception of risk and how you look at it, because if you've been made redundant, you could argue that getting another job where you could be made redundant again is a risk versus working for yourself and having more control over your employment.
Yeah, and it does really lead into the fifth point about having a setup that minimizes risk. So maybe talk to us about those couple of things, Kayla, and then I'll write some other things to minimize risk.
Yeah, I think for me, if you are a bit of a planner, slightly more risk averse than the average person, having cash savings and a buffer will take a lot of stress off you needing to get this business off the ground in the first 24 hours. And you have a cash buffer that can fund your life for the next few months while you get that sorted.
Yeah.
And it allows you to put energy into your business without having to worry how your rent's going to be paid and where your groceries are coming from.
And particularly if you are in your early 20s or late 40s and still living at home with mummy and daddy, well, that's cool because you might be able to take a bit more risk because You've got a bit of a safety net there.
Yep.
They're like, yeah, go for it, start your business. You know, I started my business when I was still living at home and then I moved out within the year.
Yeah.
You know, it all helps.
Yeah.
Even, and this could be a bit of a stepping stone. I think in small business, a lot of the time, there's been lots of big spoonfuls of pride that you have to swallow and eat. And one of those things is if you were working in a government role, 9 to 5 in the office, you had your side hustle. What if you went, look, I need to devote some more time to my side hustle, and it doesn't have to be all or nothing. What if you went, okay, I'm resigning, and stage one could be, is there an opportunity where I can fall back to 3 days a week, permanent part-time?
Yeah.
Might be an option, might not be. If it is like, no, we can't, and you still need to put some money on the table, can you go and pour beers, collect glasses on a Friday, Saturday and Sunday night at a local pub? Because at least having that inflow while you build your thing will help minimize the risk.
And can I say as well that you'd be pleasantly surprised how many small business owners do that. I think in the world of social media and whatnot, it seems like everyone is just full-time in their business and is making all this money. But I have met more business owners than not that do have a casual side gig on the weekends or a retail job, or they make coffee or whatever, just to pay their bills, so then they can focus the rest of the week on growing their business and taking that financial pressure off.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Now, I think you might, in summarising point 4 and 5, there could be a catalyst that you have to make a decision. Or do I keep in my industry or do I not? For me, when I started my studies in finance, and it wasn't a start my own business, it was moving from telecommunications to studying finance and getting a job in finance.
Were you studying while you were working in telecommunications?
No.
Okay.
So the catalyst for me was I had to get ankle surgery and I had to have like 8 weeks off.
Yeah.
You know, there's a whole story there about medicine and how things improve over time. For example, back then it was 8 weeks in a cast on a lounge, open surgery. I had the same procedure done less than 5 years ago, and it was keyhole surgery. It was 2 weeks in a back slab, then weight bearing. Like just amazing medical advance.
What's a back slab?
Where
it's like a cradle thing.
Yeah, it's basically a plaster back slab with the white bandage that you have for 2 weeks.
Versus a full cast.
A full cast for 8 weeks.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so that was a catalyst for me. It's like, okay, I'm having my surgery. That's the catalyst. I'm then going to pivot. So within that, I've just written down a couple of things. Number one, knowing the industry and really getting involved. You know, if you're in the crazy example, it might be, I want to start a coal mine.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe not starting a coal mine in this climate because we know there's a transition to renewables.
Yeah.
Not that, you know, I don't know. It's just knowing the industry. Know that you're not building something that is not going to be around and it's a big waste of time.
Yeah, you're not going to start inventing a new version of the radio or something.
So teeing up suppliers and that could minimize risk. So it's like, okay, I need to make sure if I pull the trigger on this side hustle, if it is a product that I'm doing, I need to make sure that the suppliers can send me crap.
Yeah.
I don't want to find out that, there's a minimum order of $5,000 and I don't have $5,000 and
Yeah.
So all this will lower the risk temperature. And then we want to look at guaranteed customers. How do we make sure that we've got the flow of customers when we do step and make the jump?
Yeah.
Before I started my first business, I lined up 10 people that needed some financial advice or insurance or super work. And I was like, it really gave me that confidence, like, oh, cool, I've got clients to start with.
Yeah.
But 2 ended up actually doing it.
Yeah.
So we know it's a numbers game.
I think the biggest thing with this is knowing where your customers are coming from.
Yeah.
Whether that's referrals or social media, or it doesn't have to be all of them. It could just be one channel to get started with, but you know where your next order invoice is coming from.
Yeah. And you may have to invest a little bit of your money into good marketing.
Yep.
Can you do some type of PR blitz? Like if you're an online type business, product, service, can you try and reach out to a whole heap of different podcasters and be like, can I come on and tell my story?
Are you looking for some advertising?
Well, no, like you wouldn't pay for it, but there's a lot of small podcasts out there.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is the thing. It sounds dumb, but a podcast of my size, it might be hard to get on. But there's a lot of other smaller podcasts, and I did this when I was starting. Like, I'd be a guest on all these smaller podcasts. Like, I'm not going to be a guest unless it's a favor to someone or whatever on a podcast that's real small because it's like a time thing for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, can you line up and make yourself a bit of an industry leader in that field?
Yeah.
As you are preparing to change in the current job you've got in the current industry, can you be a bit of a leader on LinkedIn? You're at conferences, you're at trade shows, you're networking.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, whether it's just putting yourself out there, whether that is in a podcast or if a podcast seems a little bit too scary, maybe it's a networking event or a conference or getting out in the industry that you're in and networking and putting yourself out there.
And I would say as well, if you are, so you're an electrician and you've done your apprenticeship and you've done a couple of years under a guy, you want to start and do your own, you need to make sure that everyone at Go Electrical, L&H, Turks, all the suppliers know who you are in your area. The lighting suppliers, the shops, go in, hey, if people come in and buy lights or ceiling fans, here's my cards, you know, I'm happy to flick a carton of beer or whatever.
Yeah.
You got to get out, go to every real estate agent. Yeah, you got to, real estate agents, hey, I'm in the area, I can do maintenance. You just got to activity.
Because I think that there are so many people out there who don't know about you and they might not need your product or service yet. In fact, probably 90% of the people you speak to won't need your product or service.
But they might know someone who needs your service.
And they will likely need your product or service eventually.
Yeah.
So if you're out there, putting yourself out there, making those connections and networking, it's just a matter of time for those customers to come in.
Yep. And then another thing to reduce risk, speak to other business owners and get some type of mentor in your life before you make the jump. Don't talk to people who aren't business owners because they won't understand it.
And I think there's a big difference between other side hustlers and business owners.
Yeah.
Like the risk is very different between those two groups of people. So when I was side hustling, I met a lot of people who were side hustling and it was great, but taking that full time is a completely different ball game.
Yeah.
So find people who are full time in their business or who have done it before you, taken their side hustle and gone full time. It'd be a massive help.
Yeah. All right. Last point. Oh, this was crazy. This you can read this. I don't want to be held responsible for this.
The last point, when is it time to quit your job and go full time in your side hustle? If you're a crazy person and you just go cold turkey and pump it.
Yeah.
But we take no responsibility.
Yeah. Look, there is nothing like a bit of hunger to get you moving.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a strategy that, I don't know, I would necessarily endorse. But if there's a bit of, there is some money coming in and, I hate my job and, everyone's going to get fired soon and, I do have some cash savings, stuff it, I'm just going to go for it.
Well, maybe that's like point 7 is you hate your job. So the thought of going back to your job is worse than you just going crazy and going full turkey.
Yeah, but the thing is as well, it's that you've got to make sure your sound financial house is in order. You've got to make sure you've got cash reserves. I don't want you to be buying mowers and tools and all that with credit cards, no new utes or cars on finance. Like, just get money in the door
Well, I
and
hope
get customers.
if that's your behaviour, you wouldn't even have made it to this podcast.
Yeah, who knows? But I think it's just surround yourself with like-minded people. Go to the business events in your area. Go to as many things as possible. Get out there. Get the hell out there. And you'll know when it's time. Sometimes the growth in the side hustle will force you to do it.
Yeah.
Or you might need someone to force you to do it.
Yeah, and once you've done it, you kind of don't have a choice but to keep going or go back to full-time work or whatever. So, I think it does kind of help being backed into a corner a little bit and not really having much of a choice. For someone like myself, because I am a little bit more risk averse, that sometimes I do need that. I don't have a choice but to put my big girl pants on and do it.
Just have a crack.
Yeah.
And what's the worst thing that can happen? You might have to go and pour beers, pour coffees, work in retail. All these are not bad things.
Not at all.
It's just not what you're used to.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be permanent either. It can just be for a season or a few months, or maybe it's a few years just to get your business off the ground.
And I would say as well, like if you have got the signs of life, you've been doing your side hustle for a year or so and it's getting good growth, I want you to also, if you are maybe in your 30s or 40s and you are quote unquote established, I'm not opposed, because I did this myself, selling an asset that you may have. You might have an investment property that's done well. You might have some shares. Sell that asset, quit your job, and go for it. Back yourself. Because when I sold my financial advice business, I had a pile of cash. I had my podcast side hustle. I saw signs of life. And I'm like, all right, let's go for it.
Can you remind me, so when you sold that business, was that to go full-time in the podcast? Yeah, okay. So you made that decision to sell that business and move into full-time with the podcast.
Yeah, so there was a risk there.
Yeah.
But I had all the signs of life that podcasting was going to really get more popular, radio was dying, and there was no personal finance podcast in the market in Australia that was kind of mainstream at the time. Yeah. So that's where I just full-on went into it.
Yeah. And it was a super calculated risk. Like, I don't think there is a way to go full-time in a business without taking on risk. So you can only
And as a business owner, you live in risk.
Yeah.
Every day you wake up without a job.
Yeah.
And that just takes time. There's a book I want everyone to read. I'll put a link in the show notes called The Dip by Seth Godin.
I still need to read that. You always bring it up.
I've got a copy here. I bought some to give away. I'm going to give you a copy. It's honestly, I read it every year when I was starting my business.
Because it's really short, hey? It's really quick read.
Easy. You'll read it on the plane home tomorrow.
Cool.
Yeah. So leave it there. We'll recap. Do you want to recap, Kayla?
So if you're making equal or more in your side hustle than you are in your full-time gig, it's time to quit your job and go full-time in your side hustle. If you're too busy, if an opportunity has come up and you can take the risk, or conversely, if a change in employment has happened and you have to take the risk, and ways to set up yourself that minimizes risk is having that cash savings buffer. Perhaps you still live at home and you don't have many expenses, or you're just a crazy person. And again, we do not take responsibility for anything that happens.
All care, no responsibility.
Yeah.
Kayla Malss, Allies, Management.
Yep, that's me.
Do you have your own website?
I'm working on it.
Kayla Malss, or what is it? I reckon what we'll do, we'll promote your website from now on to make you set it up. So if people want to learn about Kayla, they can go to her website.
I've got what's called a link kit. Actually, shout out to Link Kit. They're an emerging platform for landing pages that you can put in your link and bio. Let me find what mine is.
Link Kit. Either way, we'll put a link in the show notes. Is it Link It or Link Kit?
Link Kit. So link-kit.com/Kayla Malss. We'll put it in the show notes, but that's my landing page. And yeah, again, shout out to Link Kit. They make really cool landing pages for link and bios.
Awesome. We'll see you soon. If you found this beneficial or useful, please give us a like, a star, a good review.
Few stars, not a star.
Yeah. Well, hey, if it sucks, give us 5 stars and tell us it sucks.
Yeah.
Don't wreck the algorithm, friends. And share it with a friend or family member. My name's Glen James, and this was Kayla Malss. This is business, or this was business. Bye.
Any advice is general financial advice only, which does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Because of that, you should consider if the advice is appropriate to you and your needs before acting on the information. If you do choose to buy a financial product, read the Product Disclosure Statement, PDS, and Target Market Determination, TMD, and obtain appropriate financial advice tailored to your needs. Simo Interactive Pty Ltd, the publisher of this podcast, and Glen James are authorised representatives of Money Sherpa Pty Ltd, which holds financial services license 451289. Opinions or comments from any guests on the podcast are theirs and not those of the host or the publisher or their respective license holders.